You are cold. The cold of a medieval castle at 4 in the morning in January is a different category of cold entirely. It is the cold of 6 feet of stone that has been absorbing winter for 3 months, radiating it back into every room, every corridor, every staircase, 24 hours a day, with the patient indifference of something that was here before you were born and will be here long after you are gone. You have been cold since October. You will be cold until April. You are a servant in one of the greatest buildings in medieval England, and you have approximately 30 seconds before the steward's knock comes at your door. The cold stops being the worst thing about your situation. The medieval castle is one of history's great misunderstood buildings. We see it through the romantic lens of 7 centuries of storytelling, the gleaming towers, the noble knights, the great feasts. A castle in 1300 is not primarily a military fortification. It is a household, an administrative centre, a symbol of power so deliberate and calculated that every stone is a political statement. It houses somewhere between 30 and 300 people, knights and clerks and chaplains and stewards and cooks and grooms and laundresses and scullery boys and falconers. Most of those people are cold. Most of those people are working before dawn, and none of those people are in the stories. Until now. The castle wakes from the bottom up. The scullery boys are first, children of 10 or 12 sleeping on straw pallets in the kitchen itself, the warmest room in the castle. He rises in the dark, guided entirely by the geography of a room he knows with his eyes closed, finds the wood, builds the fire. By the time the sky outside the kitchen's single high window begins its slow shift from black to grey, the kitchen is warming and the work has begun. The horses do not care that it is 4 in the morning and dark and January. The castle's water must be drawn. The well is in the inner courtyard, and the chain and windlass are iron, and the iron is cold enough in January to stick to bare skin. The boys assigned to water carry do not wear gloves. Gloves are for people who matter. The Lord in his chamber above will wake to a fire already burning, water already heated, the day already organized around his needs by the invisible army of people who arranged it before he opened his eyes. He will not think about any of this. He never does. The castle you are standing in is not the ruin that survives into the modern world, the roofless towers and collapsed walls that tourists photograph against grey skies. This castle is alive. Every tower has a roof. Every wall has a wall walk with men on it. The great hall has a ceiling high enough that the smoke from its central hearth takes 30 seconds to reach it. The chapel has painted walls, red and blue and gold, every surface covered with images of saints and biblical scenes in colours so bright they seem to generate their own light. The great hall smells of wood smoke and the rushes on the floor that are changed infrequently and accumulate beneath them the debris of weeks of meals. The castle is also loud. The wind in the towers produces a note, a low moan that changes pitch with the direction and intensity of the winter gales. Everything in a castle requires climbing. The Lord's chamber is at the top of the tower for reasons of security and status. It is a brilliant military design. It is a brutal thing to climb 20 times a day carrying something heavy. The great hall at dinner is the castle's daily theatre. The Lord sits at the high table on a raised dais at the far end of the hall. His family and his most important guests sit with him. At the very bottom of the hall, closest to the door and furthest from the fire and from the Lord's presence, sit the lowest servants and the castle's labourers. The high table receives the first and finest portions: roasted meats, spiced sauces, white bread made from finely sifted flour, wine from France or the Rhine. By the time the food reaches the bottom of the hall, it has been traveling from the kitchen for long enough that it arrives at a temperature that would generate a formal complaint in any modern establishment. The cook is one of the most important and best paid members of the castle household, second only to the steward in the practical management of the establishment. The meal ends when the Lord rises, not before. The entire hall rises with him. The dogs move in immediately. The castle runs on hierarchy the way the kitchen runs on fire. Every person in the castle knows their exact position in its social order, and that position governs everything: where they sleep, what they eat, who they speak to, and how, what they wear. At the top is the Lord. His authority over every person in the castle is absolute. He is their employer, their judge, their military commander, and in some cases, literally their owner. The garrison, the men-at-arms and knights, are professional soldiers whose daily existence in peacetime consists largely of training, maintenance of equipment, guard duty, and the organized boredom of men kept ready for a violence that mostly does not come. They gamble in the evenings, they argue with each other constantly.
You took it from the armory!
As darkness falls, the castle contracts. The outer gates close at dusk. The portcullis drops. The drawbridge is raised. The night watch takes their positions on the wall.
It is cold.
And will stand there until dawn, regardless of the weather. The great hall after dinner becomes the sleeping space for the majority of the castle's household. The men of the household sleep on the hall floor in the residual warmth of the fire, wrapped in their cloaks, the dogs distributed among them with the democratic warmth-sharing arrangement that benefits both species. The Lord is in his chamber at the top of the tower. The chamber contains his bed, a genuine wooden-framed bed with a feather mattress and wool blankets and curtains that can be drawn to create a tent of warmth within the room's warmth. The castle at night is not silent. The wind in the towers never stops. The night watch calls the hours from the wall walk.
Across the fortress.
And somewhere in the darkness beyond the castle walls, the wolves that still exist in the northern English countryside in 1300 howl, and it means nothing to the night watch because they have heard it every winter night of their working lives. The medieval castle endures in the modern imagination as a symbol of power and romance and a simpler time. It was not a simpler time. It was a more hierarchical time, a more physically brutal time, a time when your place in the world was assigned at birth and defended by force. The boy carrying the firewood knew the castle in a way the Lord never did. He knew which stairs creaked. He knew the names of all the horses and which ones would take an apple from his hand with extraordinary gentleness. The Lord knew power. The boy knew the castle. History remembers the Lord. The castle remembers everyone. They were cold from October to April. They carried heavy things up steep stairs. They ate the food that arrived last and coolest at the bottom of the hall. They slept on the hall floor with the dogs, and they knew the names of all the horses.